Guide I.
Emerging from a cocoon into a caterpillar, from a caterpillar to a butterfly. The metamorphosis is here, is live. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, word, sound and power, music, drumming, current affairs, everything to grow and lift up your mind. Metamorphosis.
No more youths and youths for sale. We get wise and don't decide to change their style. Bobby wrong, keep your empty promises and your crooked smile. Metamorphosis, come with your thoughts, change your way of thinking. Metamorphosis, the change begins with you.
Black men apartheid, black men of Ethiopia, Timbuktu, Alexandria gave the light of civilization to this world. Ethiopia shall stretch forth our hands unto God, and princes shall come out of Egypt.
Guide I. It's the voice that sets me free. Guide I.
Good evening, Iman Blak.
Good evening.
This is Pauline from St. Mary. Calling to big you up on your program. I am a disciple. I've been there since almost inception.
Guide I. It's the voice that sets me free.
I just you may have to tune into because, I always even watch some other television and stuff, and that I have to see for later. I have to really listen to you first, you know what I mean?
How my one one machikum bakhna Africa da fa bakhna kida fanya kida farafet one machiki bunjul kida fa bunjul one yandeke sawai kida fa bunjul one machiki bunjul kida fa bunjul dafnen rafet yom entamenda ingama dafnen rafet yom entamenda ingara dafnen rafet yom entamenda ingara. Did you know that's a richer Africa? Did you know that's a richer Africa? Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud.
What do you mean say no? Without any apology, it no good to stay in a white man country too long.
Metamorphosis.
It no good to stay in a white man country too long. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. In the 50s, my mother sister run go England. Now them gone America, them turn American. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. So you left Clarendon and go a Brixton, and you check the things cool in a Liverpool. But enough how we didn't know that things would get a blow. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. And I listen the news, I get confused. A black man shine, the Ku Klux Klan. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. If you're white, it's alright. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back. Or you better attack. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. It no good to stay in a white man country too long. Now the fire have a burn, the blood have a run. At time Big Ben really tumble down. And Peter Todd say, him have a burn a chalice. But me say, him should have burned down the palace. It's no good to stay in a white man country too long. It's no good to stay in a white there, you say, a cup of tea, please. It no good. Rastafari no. It no good to see you in a white man country too long. When you there, you say, hey sir. When you go there, you say, hey mate, it's getting late. It no good to see you in a white man country too long. And the saga continue. Johnny was a singer in a Jamaica. Say him want to make it in a America. So him check out the embassy and get a visa. Next day Johnny flying on Air Jamaica. Yes, Johnny left him queen for a whole York scene. Start to live the American dream. Johnny was starting to do quite well. Underestimated this a concrete hell. He meet a white thing, settle in a Brooklyn. Little more Johnny was free basing. Johnny looking better in a New York. End up sniffing coke in a Central Park. Now Johnny out of work, him really get broke. Him run out of luck, poor Johnny. Johnny never want no ganja fi puff. Cause him says smoking wasn't enough. So him start check out 42nd Street, where all the punk heads meet to cheat. Johnny looking better in a New York. End up sniffing coke in a Central Park. Now Johnny out of work, him really get broke. Him run out of luck, poor Johnny. Man for man wasn't really Johnny Bag, but still yet him end up becoming a fag. Trying to act cool, playing the fool. In a Manhattan, Johnny get rotten. It was a cool winter night, the moon never light, and Brooklyn Bridge was a crowd. Heard the voices saying aloud. Another one lose him sanity, give away him pride and dignity. Trying to act cool, playing the fool.
Yes, well, take this some garment, otherwise known as Buju. Anytime you go for it, never you dare throw stone behind you. Can't wicked things to take you. Watch me now, yeah. Things change, no one who sees a life hard. You never used to say no money come my yard. You rent yo, you spend the whole of it abroad. Squander your money, now you living like that. Why get the port come down in a one pass? Buckana no money, but me no response. No abiding city, one pressure for me ranch. And when him they offering him with important, but he never did a look back, never did a glance. Never know him would have tumble over like an avalanche. Mama dug in the hole and him don't buy her a lamp. Not a line, not a letter, nor a 50-cent stamp. If father want a shoes, I cannot go to remittance. When me hear the boy get deep, you know me vibes come. Send him back Uncle Sam, cause in the day and around. And no few out ya want drop in at the camp. Things change, no one who sees a life hard. Why you never send a penny come my yard? You rent yo, you spend the whole of it abroad. Squander your money, now you living like that. One drop in at the store from about 79. Never get the chance, cause it wasn't my time. I mean, you they are foreign to commit the most crime. I make a bag of money when me could do make a time. Remember one time, gone, oh you used to brag. Benz and Lexus, how you did have. Clarks and Bally, where you got in a bag. Closer, you know we still have a name tag. Now you cash up, now you mash up. You never did a plan, you never made a check, fill in a foundation. Me all the things change, no one who sees a life hard. Why you never say no money come my yard? You rent yo, you
Yeah, telling us to come home. Fire operates, burn down Babylon and all them crooked ways and racial discrimination, discommunication, brutalization. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rastafari, sit upon his throne now. Rastafari, sit upon his throne, yeah. Rastafari, sit upon his throne now, telling us to come home.
Shall not enter. These are all along. Be walking on a true monster. Sipping from the cup of peace. Chant down a Babylon. Chant down Babylon. Chant down a Babylon. Chant down Babylon. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise to the whole man of creation.
Greetings, greetings. Dynastilin. Eli I. Rasta. Within I. Yes, give thanks for another opportunity to sit in at Sides FM. And give thanks for an opportunity to connect to the wider world of persons who are part of this global movement of beings, and paying attention to the events as they unfold on this planet. This is a plane of existence, and within this plane it is important that a force called consciousness be brought to the forefront, because within this plane of existence of this planet, it's about beings. It's about life forms. It's about intelligences. And so it's critical that I and I begin to really focus on the essence and to re-evaluate self through our own definitions. This is the Metamorphosis. I am your host. I am Dr. Iman Blak. And this is a month of celebration on this island, because the people of this island have been conditioned to celebrate. We celebrate everything. Celebrate. Celebrate. Just celebrate. And within all of those celebrations, a lot of funding is expended, meaning enough money is spent. Enough things are imbibed, both liquor and smoke. And we just celebrate. And as soon as one celebration is over, you hear of another celebration. And so it appears as though the meditation of the black people here is caught up in celebrations. But what are the essences and what is being learned from the events that the people are celebrating? This could be the most crucial thing. So within this month here, we have this thing called Heroes Week and Heritage Month and Culture, and we ramp it up in Jamaica. And we begin to speak glorious things about national heroes and heroines and heritage and how Africa is so essential, and we have a lot of talk in this month, and by November, December, everybody into Jesus and the economics of Christianity. And so it appears to be just I and I been programmed to just celebrate. And it's hollow. These celebrations are hollow because they're very repetitive and they're cyclic. Seeing them now for decades, and I have not been here for that long, but it has been going on for centuries. So Metamorphosis is in a mode now to really explore what is the nature behind these celebration of heroes. And in a place like Jamaica, why do we celebrate the heroes? Is it that the population must emulate the life and times of these heroes? Because that is the case, the population will all be shot and hung. Because nearly all of the heroes have been shot and hung, particularly those who fought along the lines of race. Records show that. So if we use a moment to begin this interrogation of the very heroes that have been presented to I and I, why is it we don't abstract from them and apply the things and the qualities and the characteristics that makes them heroes? So or is it just a sham to reverse the energy of revolution and to lock up these warriors into stone and tell them that their souls must rest when these are the souls of warriors? Why should our warriors' soul rest in peace? We want the souls of our warriors to remain at war continuously because there is a war. And the war has been going on for the longest time, but black people seem to be so intoxicated with Christianity that we and I think the war is between God and the devil. The war is between the white people and the people who are melanated. The war is between the people of melanin and people who don't have it. The war is between black people and the non-black people. And it's very obvious, and it is breaking out at the highest point of the Europeans and Americans' evolution, which is in the place called America. So Metamorphosis is going to look at the war that is, as it broke out in America now, where one man just go up in a hotel and decide for us. Suddenly him alone up there with about 15 rifle and machine gun, him alone set up him own like an armament, so they want us to believe. And him alone just let off gunshot. And at the end of it is 60 people dead and more, and over 500 injured. That is not a... That is a war. There's a war in America. And America posturing for war in places like Southeast Asia. America caught up in wars in Iraq. America dealing with all kind of war, but the war is now fully open in America. This brethren here who let off these ammunitions and kill all these people. 64 years old. Millionaire youth. Is not a poor youth. And without being harsh, the one good thing so far out of this trauma is that the finger that pulled the gun wasn't the finger of a black man. Because me I tell you, and me and you know. So if that was the finger of a black man, everybody would have to scatter in America. All black people would have to start scatter. So the force of race is a reality. And so we continue to examine the powers of race and identity. And how is it African people now must begin to interpret these events? How do we connect the dots? And what is the picture that I and I must see for ourselves? Because the media will always create its own images for its own advantages. What is the image I and I can get out of connecting the dots through our own intelligence? Because the information is in front of us. So we're going to look into that as we go through. And there's another set of events occurring around the world that, as much as it is not here at what we call home, it's closing in, and we need to pay attention. Now this is a set of movements in the earth now that we call independent movements, independence movements. Places like the Caribbean had that experience in the 50s and 60s when there was a set of events that led to the British sort of withdrawing them forces, and the Caribbean islands were able to declare themselves independent. It happened in African states. So once I want to know what I'm dealing with when I speak about now independence and independent movements. Now, in today's world, 2017, after the world has been sort of set up in cement between the Soviet Union and America after World War II, the whole thing is falling apart now. And by that I mean the world order that ones and ones knew for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years is undergoing what we call tectonic changes. And there are now people in the world who are claiming that they have an identity. And around that identity, they wanted to have an independent state, meaning wherever them live. Now, I must be able to understand that. It happened again in the Caribbean. As soon as the West Indians began to get an identity through cricket, the West Indian Islands began to demand independence. Now, what is happening again today now is like a place like Kurdistan. Kurdistan is in Iraq. And the Kurds feel as though they have enough identity and population that they want to have their own state. And because of that now, there's certain turmoil going on in the earth because there are other bigger countries who oppose that. Countries like Turkey and Iran oppose this independent movement in Kurdistan. The Iraqi government opposes this movement because they feel that this is a breaking up of Iraq. Now over in Spain, something similar is taking place because there's a region called the Catalan region. And those people there have their own identity for decades, which they think is separate and different from being Spain or being Spanish. And these people now are crying out for independence as well. And so there's a referendum now running, and of course the central government, which is Spain, is opposing this independence movement. So I say that to say to the ones who listen now, if we look around the world, countries and people are beginning to develop a sense of identity around which they are developing independent movements. And there's a great opposition to it by those who control the greater power. Now, it was triggered off, I think, by the United Kingdom breaking away from Europe, what they call Brexit. And it gave other countries an inspiration to know that they too can try on their own. And whatever the consequences, the population agree to accept it because they have now declared themselves to be independent politically. So it's a time in the earth now when things are actually falling apart, or things are being rearranged. And countries and peoples are beginning to recognize that because of their collective identity. This issue now is not just in Europe, you know. This issue is also in Africa because in Nigeria there's a struggle. And there's an attempt to create a state unto itself in the northern eastern region. Again, the struggle for independence. So when we look around us, we think the globe is undergoing enough shake-up. And as African people, black people, we have a perspective. What is the position do I and I take in this time? We look at a place like Saudi Arabia, where the government is just deciding to liberate women and allow them to drive motor cars. What does that mean? What does that say for a country that promotes a religion of Islam that black people embrace? Does Islam oppress black women? Or does Islam oppress women basically, generally? So we can look at all of these events and begin to overstand ourselves. So the metamorphosis spreading wide, and yet at the same time getting within. The thing called secession. Will it happen in America? Because the state of California have always talked about breaking off and being their own country. So with the state of Texas. And under the present regime of America, it's not far-fetched that the divisiveness of the unit of the White House will lead these states to declare themselves independent. So the world is undergoing serious changes, realignments. The Russians, the Iranians, the North Koreans, the Indians, all realizing that the great dragon of the North is falling. And so while Puerto Rico was drowning out, the Trump was golfing. Metamorphosis.
Remember Styles FM on social media. View us on YouTube, Styles FM Radio. Follow us on Instagram at Styles FM. Like us on Twitter at Styles FM 961. Become a fan on Facebook. Styles FM 96.1.
Start your foundation with the #1 block factory and hardware supplier in Portland. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. They have large stocks of high-quality construction and hardware supplies. From electrical, plumbing, painting supplies, and building materials, DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies has you covered. Visit any of their locations in St. Margaret's Bay, Port Antonio, or Buff Bay. Call 993-4415 or 913-3530 or email DIB_block@yahoo.com. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. Your foundation starts with them.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast to order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on Styles FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
Can the black people in America ever become independent? We see a lot of other ethnic groups struggling for their independence. Can the black people in America achieve independence inside America? Serious challenge. Remember, there is Africa. a very serious moment that I and I going through as a people, you know. Because right across there in Germany, there was a great celebration in Germany a couple of days ago. Massive celebration. Guess what you think happened? 2 men locked in tongue bath as part of the celebration. And people cheer and go wild. What happened? Germany has legalized same-sex marriage. So the whole thing broke out now. Hundreds and perhaps thousands of guys and girls tying up themselves now into this concept that they are calling marriage. And African people must look at it very carefully from a distance and recognize that what I and I know as family cannot be started with two of the same gender. Never could, and it never will. But we see that these kind of situations are being brought into being within a framework called institution. This now is the institution that Europeans have orchestrated that they are calling marriage. So we have to wake up ourselves, you know, and take a look and take a position. I have to take a position. And a lot of the positions that I and I take have to be influenced by culture, black culture, African culture, and black and African history. So that's just a point of reference of the things that are occurring in the globe and why I and I must pay attention to the whole world. So coming forward now to where we are in this present moment, it's obvious that there is tremendous upheavals occurring in political and economic and social systems. So the upheaval must be also occurring in the psychological world. It must be occurring also in the minds of the people, where the minds of the people are also in an upheaval. And oftentimes lack of information and lack of grounding, why people will be in a state of panic, thinking that the world ending and all sorts of things that they must do quickly, and lose focus on posterity and building for the next generation. So we find that with all that's going on, I and I have to look to I and I Savior, one of our saviors within the whole struggle against white domination. And every culture have them savior. Every culture of people, every group of people who are oppressed over time will cry out for a savior. And the savior can either be within a divinity or it will come through man. So it's a divine inspiration where people look up into the sky, or it's a practicality where the inspiration comes through a child, a person who is born into the culture. And so we have to call upon Marcus Messiah Garvey and the relevance of Garvey in a time like this and Garvey's philosophy as we watch America now at war with itself. So you think that the war in America would be just about the police against blacks. It has gone beyond that now. And it's a full-scale war. And American media will never ever try to connect this man to ISIS. But the Islamic movement are now claiming that this man is one of them soldiers. And if that is really the case now, you can't tell me the war don't start. And the war really starts, obviously, when it reaches to American soil, because America fighting war in every other country for decades. Now the war seems to be festered. That a man at 64 years old who have money and is not poor, but has a different way of analyzing and thinking out things. Him turn now into what them call a mass murderer. Shooting over 500 people and killing over 50 is no simple task. And I doubt if one man like that could operate as a lone wolf. So I'm not accepting that from the media, that this man worked by himself and he was not affiliated with nothing. This is the chickens, as Malcolm X would say, coming home to roost in the most violent way. So black people now, how do I and I respond to that? You get angry, or you start, we're going to start take ourselves and organize our own identity. and begin to think out our own economics. And the message is clear because obviously money don't make a black man get any status amongst white people. And it's not just in America now, it's right through wherever white people have their own dominant society. It don't matter how much money a black man have, I'm still considered to be a nigger. It doesn't matter how much education, could have 10 PhD, them still see him as a nigger. So I must wake up now to those realities of how white people perceive I and begin to check yourself. Check yourself and organize yourself around our own self. And the importance of ourselves now is knowing our culture and our history. And the culture and the history doesn't have its genesis in the Caribbean nor in North America as a continent. It is in the continent of Africa. Alkebulan, Kemetic culture, philosophy that deals with liberation of thought and creativity. So, Marcus Garvey now is an important point to rally around because I need a philosophy. And the philosophy that we have been holding on for the last 2,000 years, you see, it don't carry us anywhere. It don't carry us anywhere. So we need a new philosophy, but a philosophy that deals with the agency of black people. And the choice is obvious. We hold on and we claim Marcus Garvey and begin to apply and implement the philosophy and ideas. I will continue to hold on to the philosophy of Moses, or the philosophy of Moses and Jesus. So this is the crossroads. But if we decide really which philosophy is more practical and useful for black people in 2017, is it time to abandon the philosophy of Jesus and the philosophy of embracing poverty and trying to get off the earth into this rapture that takes you into the sky? Or should we turn to the philosophy of Garvey that talks about race first, economic development, importance of education? So I have to make that adjustment now, because the thing moving fast. If you look into Europe, the Germans had their election, and Angela Merkel win, but the biggest victory was to the racist party. The nationalists, them call themselves on the right, they are now in the governmental house, and we begin to influence decisions. So, races of people organizing themselves. So black people now, are we a race? Or we don't see ourselves as a race? We just scattered out as chattel. I was listening to a program on the same station and heard some presenters talking about women and men and who breed who and who don't breed. And I realized it's not just a discussion that was here significantly. It's a whole concept island-wide, how we think of ourselves. So I understand that breeding is an animal behavior. You breed rabbit and you breed goat. But African people can't see themselves as breeding. You have that perception if you see yourself as an animal and as an object. The African queen is impregnated. Yes. We're not breeding. So we have to change the conception of our own selves. So we breed hog. And we breed goat. We breed animals. So if we put ourselves as a people within the concept of breeding, we are claims that we are animal too. I is no animal. I is a divine manifestation of consciousness. And we have come to know that. And so, again, Marcus Garvey's philosophy is a crucial foundation. But I'm going to give the item a very serious criticism, because things can evolve and things can improve and things and times change. And I have some things about Garvey's motto that I think I need to address. And the motto is an important and a powerful symbol that motivates and encourages any organization or institution. And most institutions and organizations try to have a motto that is uplifting and positive and instructive and gives you energy, like Fortress Kadir. So, Garvey has created a motto. I think there is an issue in that motto that I need to address to really move out of the doldrums, because Garvey lived long time in reverse. So there's something that still needs to be addressed. Metamorphosis.
Prayer, I turned the prayer into a song, and we put it together like this.
So, Metamorphosis continuing. As I said, this month of October here is a time when the people are encouraged to speak of their heroes and to have things that are of cultural heritage presented to them, and entertainment, celebration. So today, them early, we love to celebrate. But the objective behind celebration oftentimes is lost. And in the black man's struggle, we have to begin to refocus on what are the lessons to be learned from these events and experiences, and how do we take those lessons and apply them to advance the cause, or the causes. So, within our construct of heroes now in Jamaica, they have one woman, one female, and the rest of them are males. But if you listen to the music in the background, bring it up a little bit for me, Cass. But this is one of the national heroes This is one of the heroes of Jamaica, not national. This is one of the heroes, King Selassie. And is an important hero within the revolutionary struggle of black people. And because of the works of His Majesty and the consciousness that manifested through Rastafari, Haile Selassie has become an international hero. And is not by the people of Ethiopia on the continent that brought that about. It's by the man them right here upon the rock. So heroes are obviously created by the people. So Rastafari has transformed Haile Selassie into one of the heroes of the black struggle. So on the island now, the heroes that we have been presented with is not the black people on the island define who these heroes necessarily are. I think these heroes have been organized and presented to us. Just like most things, and we vote for it, or we don't accept it. And if we don't accept it, and them say it for go, it just goes so. A lot of people never accept the naked thing in Emancipation Park. But the powers that be force it there. So we have heroes now, female. And if you look along the historical timeline, Nanny is presented as a heroine, and her time is from the 1700s. And then we have Sam Sharp, and in the early 1800s. And then there is Bogle, middle 1800s. And then there's Marcus Messiah Garvey at the end of the 1800s. So these heroes and heroine, what connects them in the struggle is that their struggle was based upon race. Garvey's struggle was a struggle of race. Bogle was a struggle about race. Sam Sharp, Nani, Taki. So when we're celebrating the heroes, we should be celebrating race. We should be celebrating the African race. But that seems to be lacking because the general theme of the dominant class is to make the population forget about Africa and concentrate on places like North America and the United Kingdom. We have to focus on home, and home is where the black man is in his many. And home is not just a continent of Africa, but I'm saying home is where we are in a dominant way. And in the island, I is a dominant feature, but lack the knowledge of self and lack the power. So Marcus Garvey, out of all of those heroes and heroines, have been determined and declared by the government to be the first national hero. Now this is very significant in how them organizing the whole thing. Because as I said, Nani did her struggle from the 1700s. And if you're following along a timeline, she would probably be the first. And then, Sharp and Bogle and Garvey, and until they reach the politicians who allow certain things to take place in negotiations with the British for this independence process. So Marcus Garvey again has been given the rank of being the first national hero. So apparently him is a target man. Him is a man who's supposed to set the foundation for the Jamaican society and economics and politics and other aspects of living. First national hero. And this first dictate of the philosophy of Marcus Garvey is race first. African race first. Black people first. Not to the extent where you begin to discriminate against other races by building walls, but by recognizing that we have to internalize and coordinate and uplift self, because that's what other races do. The Chinese do it quite well. The Indians are doing it well. Now we see we're groups who are not separate by race, but they are separate by ethnicity, where these groups want to have their own independence now. Because the people in Spain, the Catalans, they are Caucasians. So that is not a racial issue them having there. Them having some ethnic struggles. And even within their ethnicity, them demanding to be independent. So identity is the essence. Your identity. And that is what is basically lacking now in black people. We're lacking identity. And the identity now is being crisscrossed now because we claim that we have been mixed up with other races, but that's irrelevant. What is important is understanding the dominance of being an African, the dominance of being black, the dominance of being a melanin person, a dominance of being the race that is the original, the race that connects with the sun and the plants and is a part of nature. So as the world fall apart and reorganize itself, the black people will have to regroup. Because long time we fall apart. This time I regroup. And the regrouping coming now through a philosophy that is positive. A philosophy that don't make you feel as though you are second class in any society. And if you look around the world, in almost every society is at the base and the bottom is black people. So something is happening that we're not paying attention to, even though Garvey has come and gone. And that's what I want to get to. What is it that is still creating a handicap in the thinking of black people, as much as we have been overwhelmed with philosophy of Garvey and the teachings of Ben Buchanan and Henry Clark and all the great historians with all left their work and information and production? How and why is it the black race still remains at the base? The exploration continues on the Metamorphosis.
Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers him. No one talking about Paul Booker. They've been talking about William Gardner. They've been talking about Norman Washington Manley, including Bustamante. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. Find his time. John D. Baptist, Edward Cutter. Get away into Osasa. Steam the cycles of the world, Lord, believe me, yes, there's nothing to gain. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. This is the right way. This way is the right way. This way is the right way. All we got to do is let true black love arise. And hatred scatter, even melt and put the fire like the wax. Yes, no one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey. No one remembers Paul Marcus Garvey.
Europe is for the Europeans. Asia is for the Asians. India for the Indians. Africa is for Africans at home and abroad.
Old Marcus Garvey, no one remember. Old Marcus Garvey, no one remember. And the soul yet young, and the soul yet who older than Garvey, and the soul yet young, who younger than Garvey.
It's Cassidy, aka Mr. Soulfly. Sorry. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're locked into E-Flare. The evening flare's on, and it's gonna be on and popping. It's a Wednesday evenings between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. And we got some wonderful segments for you. We're talking about what the... You can't say that. I'm talking about what you can't say that. Nah, man. What the facts, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we're here for. You're also gonna get into what's new, where we talk about new music. You know what I mean? From new or old school artists. And it's on and popping. And hey, don't forget about the E-Games, where we're gonna ask some questions, and you guys get to answer. It's all about E-Flare. Come in and check out that evening flare with Mr. Soulfly Cassidy.
For the best quality in sound reinforcement and backlining, Native Audio. We have professional engineers with over 20 years of experience. So call us and we'll take care of your parties, wedding receptions, barbecues, conferences, and small stage shows. Crystal clear sound, Native Audio. Our prices are the best. Call us at 871-5212. That's 871-5212. Native Audio. We make your events audible.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast to order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on Styles FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
We got to examine the past. We got to examine the past. The past is the foundation upon which the present rests. And without understanding the past, there is no future. So, people think that the past is something that is left behind. The past is not left behind, you know. The past is present. The past is always with you. And also within you is the present. And also within you is the future. So African construction of time is not in a straight line. It's cyclic. So there is no past that is disconnected from the I and I. So we don't leave the past behind. We don't leave history behind. History travels with us. So if you don't know your history, you don't know where you are now. And then therefore there can be no planning for the future. And the manifestation of the future really comes from what is in the present. So I need to really re-examine our thinking process. And what is needed to reach a point where we can see self and see race first. There is something that is blocking up our perception. Why it's difficult to see race first. It's not blocking up the Chinaman view, because them see him race first. It's not even blocking up the white man's view, because him see it first, and him defining it now as a political movement, race first. That's what Trump is up to. The Indians see themselves as them race first. What is preventing black people, African people, from seeing themselves as race first? 2,000 years of subjugation, 2,000 years of programming, of self-denial, 2,000 years of disconnecting the African history from its culture. So the hope of repairing, and I have to put myself through to be able to be in a position where we can start talking about unity, because there is a whole heap of fragmentation just within. So we'll continue to examine the whole process and looking at it through Garvey as the liberator, as the one of the redeemers, one of the saviors within the black population and the black experience. So from the time of Garvey till now, over 100 years. And when we look at the times, people will tell you that the condition of black people has not improved. That we have seen a spike, an upliftment in the 60s and the 50s and early 70s, but then we see a rapid decline after that. And it don't seem as if the black people are in a position to ascend. What is it that is keeping I and I at the bottom of the pyramid, at the base, as slaves and as workers? Even in big plantation in the United States, where the president can call professional players SOBs and tell them that they are ungrateful because look how many millions they're getting out of white America, and they should be thankful. So I and I have no real value even in the future for white people. They don't see us in the future. So if we look at the picture now and look at where Garvey was and where I and I is today, over 100 years. The message has been out there a long time. Africa first. Ethiopia, look at religion through the lens of Ethiopia. All of these things. Love blackness, black is beautiful. We've been through all of those cycles. From the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, Rastafari come forward, bringing in the African-centeredness about religion, looking at the Jesus from an African perspective. We've been through all of those things. We're Afro, we're soul, everything became black, and now everybody becoming bleached and brown again. So there's something in the program that is holding us at a constant. That no matter how much the changes I and I make, those changes become cosmetic. Something in the program of enslavement that is a constant. And the metamorphosis is insisting that the ones and ones begin to examine it too. And explore the whole system of thought that has been imposed upon I and I. But before this program done, I will share with I my view as to what is it that has been the constant. Why no matter what we achieve in any other sphere, and the global picture doesn't change. And Garvey may have part of the solution. We'll examine what is it he was trying to do. Because Garvey established the greatest and the largest ever black man organization, black woman organization, African organization, the greatest on the earth, at a time when there is no internet and no social network. Through writing and printing and public speaking, millions and millions of black people were rallying around their identities, which was crucial. So pick up some of the greatest enemies, particularly in white America. FBI, CIA, brown politicians who were defending their own Negro status. Much of the Negro Christians rise up against him because him come to speak about blackness. And so obviously there's a clash between blackness and Christianity. And that could be part of the foundation why the Christians who are Negroes can't say them black self. So we're working towards it. What is it that is constant? Why African people, why black people can't get past that vision or that blind spot and begin to see that blackness is first, that race first. And saying race first don't make you a racist. It makes you racially conscious. The racist is the man who hates other races for reasons that are irrational, based upon insecurities and desires for domination. So it's driven by hatred. Racism is driven by hatred. If you are conscious racially, there is no hate and there is no love. It's just a consciousness, knowledge of yourself and a confidence. So something is in the program that no matter how we get rebellious and leak out and become almost revolutionary, everything returns to the same state. So I think the answer lies within even examining some of the mottos that we have been holding on to. In the same way, the Jamaican motto tells people that out of many one, and those who are intuitive and intelligent can see that there's something problematic with that motto. I'm saying to the eye that there's a problematic in Garvey's motto. There's a problematic in that motto as well. And I will speak to it. Metamorphosis.
Anyone hurt their soul.
Black Uhuru chanting. So there is such a thing as a counterfeit black man. You have to start watch them thing, you know, look out, you know, for the counterfeit black man them. And them man, you know, will promote the ideology of the opposition, of the oppressor, and justify the behavior of the oppressor. Oftentimes them getting a little thing from the oppressor. So Marcus Garvey is a bona fide black man, no counterfeit. And his African features demonstrated how bona fide he was. That even today the artists that you contract couldn't reproduce that bona fide blackness because him seems to be suffering also from feelings of inferiority towards blackness. And so them preach it. So the Jamaican society have been programmed through education to think that Garvey was ugly. Yes, he was short and he was ugly and pudgy. And then push that imagery and make black people start feel lesser than themselves and begin to have even less regard and respect for their own national hero based upon his African features. So it's coming from a time when the women would straighten them hair to have straight hair that look like Europeans. And the grandparents would pinch up the children's nose that the nose can get straight to look like the European. A time when all efforts was to become non-African because the plantation society never support African as a status of beauty or good looks or anything. Beauty was always defined along the terms of the European female. So even those terms have to question about definitions. Who is it that create definitions? And who defines what things are? And how is the definitions change? Where do people get the power to define? So you find that beauty defined by Europeans. And Garvey didn't fit into the model because Garvey didn't have a straight nose. And Garvey didn't have thin lips. And Garvey's face was broad. And his lips were thick. And the European is almost the total opposite of that. Thin lips and straight nose. And long hair that the breeze can blow. So Marcus Garvey, him trying to insist that black people must return to them Africanness, was like one man against the world. Especially on an island like Jamaica. He have to take with himself. Unfortunately for him, he went into a world where black people were searching for their Messiah. The oppression of the black man in America was so intense that they were crying out for our Messiah. The same way the Jews and the Hebrews cried out for our Messiah and get them Joshua. The black people in America cry out for their Messiah and they got Marcus. It's simple as that. And Marcus arrived at the right time with the right message to liberate the oppressed black people in North America. So we're not over impressed with the concept of a savior, like is a one man come save the whole world. Each culture and each set of oppressed people will generate their own savior. And that individual will come and help to transform the community and the minds of the people who are involved in that particular struggle. So Garvey is the man. And Garvey should be in every black man household should have a picture of Marcus Garvey. Instead, we have a picture of Jesus. You see it? So we step away from ourselves. And we have an alien now running our household. That when the black man goes out and labors and comes in with it, the woman tells him, says, Jesus give him the strength to go out. And she thank Jesus for him though. You understand? That is how demotivated and disempowered black man get because of this Jesus image. Marcus Garvey was a printer, was a publisher, was an owner of industry, practical things, wasn't aspiring to leave the earth to go to heaven, was aspiring for building black economics. And that is a cry today, black economics. So what has happened from Garvey's till now, 100 years past? How is it we're still at the same spot, or maybe we have regressed? There is something in the program that is constant. That whether it's Marcus Garvey come and talk, whether Malcolm X come and say what he have to say, whether Martin Luther King, whether Medgar Evers, whether Bob Marley, it coming like no matter who come and say, from the days of Paul Bogle and before, no matter where them come and say, they are eliminated and the status quo remains. So there is something that is constant. And if you look into Garvey's motto, we may find that constant there and realize that it's time to remove it. Look into the motto. The Jamaican motto says, out of many, one people. And we see the problems with that. Garvey motto says, one God, one aim, one destiny. There is a problem with that. Metamorphosis. We'll pull up now. Pull up the thing now and revisit it. Pull it up fearlessly. And in Jamaica now, it's a long time we've been pulling up this motto to look at it from inside out and front and back and top and bottom and inside out. And with the motto in Jamaica tells us that out of many, one people. And oftentimes when the economic pressures begin to multiply and the people begin to get angry, we suddenly begin to ask the question, who really is the people? And who is the many? So these things now leave reasoning to travel. And you ask the questions, and if you ask the proper questions, you get serious answers. So the motto in Jamaica now forces people to realize that there are a difference between the people and the many and the one. And it's always the same people who are always feeling the pressure. And they're always in the many. And there's always one group of people who are always benefiting. One small group, one small racially controlled group. So we go through that Jamaica thing already, and we'll continue to examine and realize that the matter in Jamaica backways. Because the many really are the African population, 94%. So it should be out of many come one. It can't be out of one many. Out of many, we have this one island called Jamaica. But let us look at Garvey. Because Garvey now being our Messiah, we have realized that Garvey also is man. And that things can be upgraded and things can be improved. There was a time in Garvey's life and the era that Garvey lived, the identity issue around the people who were just emancipated revolved around whether they were Africans or whether they were Negroes. That was a issue of identity in the early 1900s. Because the Europeans had already reduced African population to animals and chattel. And the Africans were in a state of resistance. And in that transformation out of emancipate from chattel slavery to emancipation, there was an attempt to maintain the concept of the Africans as being Negroes. Because remember now, no black person came to America or to the Caribbean as a Negro, Everybody came as Africans. Yeah, no Negroes never come over. Because Africans were raped and uprooted. Africans were brought into the Western world. So this concept of Negro now is something is recent. It's a creation. So there's a book called The Creation of the Negro. And the Negro now is a whole remodeling of the African. It's a broken down African who has been remodeled. And he has been remodeled along the lines of being a Christian, a good behaving servant, a trained servant, that you're trained to follow instructions and don't question what the master say. And you're locked up into this mentality of being a servant. And you're a servant not only to the owner of the slaves, but also to his religion. Because they introduce I and I to a religion now and tell I and I that I must pay homage and show reverence and fear to the deity that him tell us is supreme. So, we can look at all the things set up. Garvey now, in organizing and regrouping the African population, he had an issue and a problem calling the people Africans because they were in a state of denial. And they were in a state of rejection of the concept of being African. So when he set up an organization, he set it up as a Universal Negro Improvement Association, but there were also the African Community Leagues. So Garvey was trying to bridge it, create that gap, close the gap between being this concept of a Negro and the resurrected African, the reborn African. So issues from them time there arise. And in today's world, it has not been solved because the present leadership still holding on to the concept of the Negro. Still holding on to being a Negro because them say Garvey says so. Without looking at the growth and the evolution of time and realize that I was never Negroes. Negro is a European American concept of black people who were beaten to such a level that they could only grow consciously as high as them knee. So they were Negroes. That's as high as them consciousness could reach, to the level of the knee. There is no race of people named Negroes. There is no land in the world that's called Negro land. So part of the liberation of the African people is by discarding and abandoning that concept of Negro. It's the first step towards redefinition of the African, of the abandon that concept of Negro. And Garvey's movement should be named Universal African Improvement Association. Far more relevant. The word Negro comes from the Greek nekro, which means dead. So the Europeans and the Americans were defining these African people as dead minds, negros, dead minds. And a dead mind can only carry out the function that is programmed to do. So you program the animal because they have instincts. So I'm saying this is to the item now from Garvey's inception of his movement. There have been issues around things that Garvey say and what Garvey do. Because Garvey is man, Garvey is a thinking man, and Garvey can't think of everything. But he surely think of a whole heap of things. And his women were able to put it down into writing. Both of his wives. So the motto now, I want to look into the motto. Because with all the brilliance of Marcus Garvey's philosophy says one God, one aim, one destiny. And most people just absorb that and drink it up and without ever querying the essence of that motto. And as I say, motto motivates. And a motto can also demotivate. So the issue I have now with the Garvey's motto is that I can see one destiny easily. Our destiny that is common for black people, one destiny. I can see one aim and one destiny. Because in that aim and that destiny now, there's a unity of vision. One aim, one destiny. What I don't say is that one God. What I say is Africa. I see one aim, one destiny, one Africa. What I can't understand now within the Garvey's motto, what does it mean to say one God? Because obviously the Europeans and those who have been our captives have also been embracing one God. And when you came into Africa and rooted and raped and sodomized I, it was under the banner of one God. So there's something that we must investigate seriously about this one God concept, particularly the one God that has been created on us and given to us by these Europeans. Visit the history of the one God. When did the one God come into being? Did Africans before contact with the Europeans really embrace one God? And for how long? Who brought one God into the literature? Garvey said, one aim, one destiny. Iman can't say, oh, the one God has helped the black people to become a resurrected force. May I challenge the nature of that one God.
Soul fans of Styles FM, Black or Pearl,
and Chungy are at it again. Soul Showdown
on the Caravan of Love
from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Wednesday,
starting September 6th through to November.
This showdown is sponsored by Nicest Eatery, Scarborough, Ontario, Canada.
Dayton's Car Wash, Golden Grove, St. Thomas.
Ultimate Grill, Eat Right, Taste Right, Feel Right, located at 1345 East Gun Hill Road, Bronx, New York. And Partopia Party Rentals, located in the Bronx, New York. Partopia, we make renting easy.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Start your foundation with the #1 block factory and hardware supplier in Portland. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. They have large stocks of high-quality construction and hardware supplies. From electrical, plumbing, painting supplies, and building materials, DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies has you covered. Visit any of their locations in St. Margaret's Bay, Port Antonio, or Buff Bay. Call 993-4415 or 913-3530 or email DIB_block@yahoo.com. DIB Block Factory and Hardware Supplies Limited. Your foundation starts with them.
Should I be tested? Lucky thing aside, oh, what a stress. Should I be a prisoner? Look what they've done to Peter. John before my word has come to pass. Vision before them talking about Marcus at last. Look what I and I and see. Should I blood run in the misery of their poverty? The people are arm in arm with their arms. Decent folks live in fear of their own life. And if we should go arm in arm for our wives, they would try to take our life and build strife. Oh, what a stress, great one a sparse, never-ending life class. Surviving the iron storm, I pledge to do. Utterance from my lips, I feel the suffering too. Surviving the iron storm, killing is not my thing. Better dead than I, now take a beating. Her blood will not be shed, unforgotten. I said she feel the bombs of Babylon party. Look what experience taught her in the long run. Babylon take her for the hot cross
one. So we're looking clearly now into the motto of Marcus Messiah Garvey, our Messiah. Looking into the motto and see where is it that there is an issue that probably at the subconscious level of operation we are holding ourselves back. In other words now, when we look at the heroes in the Jamaican context of our national heroes, them hang Sam Sharp. And Sam Sharp was a Christian. And them hang Bogle. Bogle was a Christian. So all of them two men was under the one God concept. And the white man was who gave us his one God concept now, him hang them in the name of God. Or on behalf of the Queen or the King or whoever. But them might feel the wrath of the dominant force. Marcus Garvey died in isolation, and he too had embraced the concept of the one God. Now, when I look at Nani, we don't get any information about Nani embracing this same one God that Sharp and Bogle and Garvey and everybody else have been given. Because if you look at Nani and her tradition, Nani came from Western Africa as a queen and as a Moor. And the Moors were basically non-Christians. The Moors were Islamic. So Nani's one God, or Nani's God, was not the one God of the Christians. So you see now that we have some different application and interpretation of this one God concept. And it is a Christian one God that I and I must begin to really interrogate, because the Islamic forces speak of their God and their one God. They term that one God Allah. And Allah have them different attributes than the one God of the Christianity. Because that one God that is of Allah speaks much about practical laws and self-defense, while the Christian God seems to be part of sacrifice and murder and death and revenge. So I ask you to guide them now. What is the value of embracing this aspect of the motto? How has it advanced black people out of the state of slavery? When if you check the history of the one God given to us, is really a concept that operates like a puppet master. And it is that concept that seems to be at the subconscious level of the black mind that is really holding control and directing, no matter how cultural we get. And no matter how philosophical we get, we have this ideology planted in the subconscious mind around this concept called one God. And it is in the motto. And I realize that as black as and militant as some of us want to become, there is something that keeps us calm. And so this one God concept now is something that I need to really look into. Because Islamic forces, one of our national heroes, Nani wasn't of the Christian one God. And the battle between the British and the Moors was not just physical. It is also a spiritual battle. It was Christianity versus Islam. And it was obvious who was the victor. Because the Christians had to run away. Because the powers of Islam, as it relates to black people, makes them feel superior in themselves. The Islamic forces and philosophy don't have the Africans thinking that they are inferior. And the Africans who were the Moors knew that they were the builders of the Spanish culture and had contributed much to the development of European culture. So there is no inferiority feelings in the Islamic thinking. The Christian one God insists that ones and ones become a servant according to the teachings. And so if you have a set of servants already who are chained up and you indoctrinate them into being a servant, when you take off the chains, they will still behave as servants. So if we examine this aspect of the struggle and explore where and how did the concept of this one God come upon black people in the Western world, and how did we deal with that concept when we were on the continent of Africa, and who are the originators of this concept of one God, and is it not a political construction? Metamorphosis.
Wow, skip a George.
Dawn of the living day.
Yes, the metamorphosis continues. This is an area that sometimes creates a lot of anxiety in people. And they begin to shut down their thought processes because them think that them getting into areas of thinking that will make them sin and blaspheme and all these type of words that bring fear to the Negro Christian. Because the Negro Christian has been programmed to fear. Fear is the driving force behind the Negro Christian. First of all, the Negro Christian is told to fear God. And that the fear of this one God now is the beginning of wisdom. This is crucial, you know. Yes, the fear of this one God is the beginning of wisdom. And we're supposed to strive for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So apparently we will never achieve knowledge and understanding unless we exhibit this fear. And people try to tell you that this fear is a positive fear. But I know of no positive fear. Because if you want to speak about reverence, that's a whole different ball game. But reverence doesn't mean fear. So I don't have to fear to show respect. I'm supposed to demonstrate reverence. When a man broke in your house and have a gun pointed at you, you don't have no reverence for him. You're afraid. That is fear. And is that the feeling that them want you to have towards the one God? Then it means that this one God now is no different from a slave owner. Master controller. Puppet master. So the fear of God, of this one God, is a dominant controlling force. Whether you see Marcus Garvey, or whether you see Haile Selassie, or whether you see whatever you want to see. So the dominant culture, the capturers, the oppressive forces, realize how the subconscious operates. And so within the subconscious brain of the black people are planted these fears. Now, what may be surprising is that these fears are not planted when you are 5 and 6 and 7 years old. These fears are planted between age 1 and 3. Yeah, at a time when you can't even recall your own self. These fears are planted in the subconscious brain of our children. And if you understand African psychology and development of the black child, I recommend that you spend a little bit of time on YouTube and look up Dr. Amos Wilson. Dr. Amos Wilson now is a front man when it comes to black consciousness and psychological understanding of black self. We have had Dr. Ben Yochanan, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Professor John Henry Clark. We have a whole army of intelligentsia. The man to look at now is Dr. Amos Wilson. And he has what is called the blueprint for the African child. And the psychology of the black person is developed by the personality rather. It's developed by age 3. Personality. And how many of you can remember your life at age 2? So none of the things then that you don't even remember. Much of what you have been programmed with, you don't even remember it. Because you can't remember your life when you were 2 years old. And it's these times that the parents and the society overpower these plastic minds with fear. Your fear of the boogeyman, and your fear of the dark, and your fear of this, and it's pure fear. So under that type of administration, it is difficult now for black people to reach a level where they're going to find the courage to question those type of fears. But you have to, because it's a fear. And the primary use of a fear is to control. So the point is, as much as we are into black culture and black this and black this, we're still controlled by fear. And the greatest fear, apparently, is the fear of the one God. Yeah, it's a very, very well worked out psychology. And it's been running for 2,000 years. And so once black people begin to organize to think about Africa, and we put in the one God in the mixture, we're not going away. We're not going anywhere. Because that one God is a specific design by European thought thinkers. Where that one God have characteristics and attributes that are not constructive for black people. That one God demands service. Yes, not only service in your emotion, but service with your money. So we know that we have to find a way to break away from that, man, and start keep our own money and stop donating our money to the cause of this one God. And if we really check it out, as I am about to show the item now, this one God was a political construction constructed in ancient Egypt as a political tool. And the Europeans have used this politics to control the meditation and the mind of black people in particular. Because when you're a slave, information is forced onto you. And information is beaten into you. And you don't come to know anything. You come to believe. And if seeing is believing, the question is, what is required to come to know? How do we know? Metamorphosis.
Time to tell the world, now tell the world, now we
know our story. That's an important element to reconstructing our psychology, our own psyche. Because what happened now, there has been a split, a split between history and culture. And in that split, we have lost our foundation. Now, the whole idea around one God is not an idea that is alien to African people. I have to know this now in these modern times. What is it to speak about one God? And where did this idea come from? Who promoted this idea? Who is the originator of this type of concept? And what was the purpose? And one of the things that you'll begin to recognize if you begin to check the history books is that ancient Egypt, which is an important historical place to reconnect and reconstruct our own story. Its history tells us of the great pharaohs that ruled that part of Africa. And the pharaohs, obviously within our own Western information, we were given the impression that the pharaoh was some form of evil. And Pharaoh represented the devil, according to how the Europeans were teaching us. And we learn about Pharaoh now and the Egyptians through Bible stories. Now, these Bible stories now are written with one intention: to maintain a superiority of one group of people over another. That is one of the basic tenets behind the Bible, to impress this superiority of one group over the other. Now, today, Egyptians are not really black people. They are dominantly Arabs. But in the times 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians were blacker than me and you. So there's an important king and dynasty that is important to understand the one God concept. And the king that we speak of is Akhenaton, Akhenaton. And Akhenaton made an attempt to bring two regions of Egypt under one government. Because Egypt was about Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. And Upper Egypt had its own philosophy. Upper Egypt also had its own gods and goddesses. The same goes for Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt, because sometimes Egypt was called the two lands. And so the culture of the Africans prospered under the ideology and the philosophy of many gods. So the theological way of thinking was along the lines of what is called polytheism. Polytheism, the belief in the existence of many gods. Now, in this Western world, when we hear the word God, everybody jump, because it only can only refer to one God, and this one God must be equivalent to the supreme God, and the supreme God is no different from the Creator. And that's how we are given it in our ways of perception, that there's a one God, and the one God is supreme, and that supreme God is a Creator. And we hold that for the longest time. But some problems with that. Because when we begin to check out the genesis of this one God, we realize that we have to go into Africa, we have to go into ancient Egypt, we have to revisit King Akhenaten, and realize that when Akhenaten came to power, there were two Egypts, upper and lower. One Egypt respecting Aton as the sun god, the other speaking of Ra. And there are other gods and goddesses in the whole constellation of deities. And critically, the gods were male and the goddesses, of course, were female. So within the Egyptian African conception of deities, there were several deities. There was no real one deity that was supreme over all of the rest, because it was about cooperation and coordination. So there was, for example, the god of fire, and the god of water, the god of air, the god of the earth. All the natural elements were gods representing certain forces in nature. And these forces would come together and create all sorts of manifestations on the earth. Even today, when we experience a hurricane, it's a combination of those God forces, wind and water and heat. So, as a tradition, the black people at that time never had a problem serving any one God. And giving service and being a servant was not part of the ideology. So when Akhenaten came to the throne, Akhenaten decided to try to create a unity between Upper and Lower Egypt. So Upper Egypt was towards the south, and of course Lower Egypt was towards the north. So there were two kingdoms. And around 3000 BC, 3000 years before the Christian birth, 3000 years before the Christian era, 3000 years before there was any Jesus, 3000 years before there was any Moses, Upper and Lower Egypt was united by King Akhenaten. And Akhenaten decided that one of the greatest ways to unite both regions was to remove the concept of the many gods and have the both sides of Egypt worship one God. So it was a political construction, the one God. And the one God, according to Akhenaten, was a God of mercy. And Akhenaten decided to find a symbol that the people could see that would represent this one God that was the force behind all living things. And in looking into nature, Akhenaten looked around and realized that the force that is within all nature comes from the sun, radiant energy. And so he decided to recognize the sun, the Aton, as the Almighty. So we have this in our history. We have this in our culture before Jesus born, before Abraham born, before the Bible write, before Adam make, before any of these stories. We have this as our history and our culture. So we know about the one God concept as a political structure created by a king to unite two sections of Egypt. It was not one God that African people had to bow down to and to be fearful of. And this one God concept never have a family that was human, because we're talking about deities. So we're not ignorant to the concept of a one God. That even that one God concept was in existence when even Moses emerged, according to the literature, in Egypt. And Moses now is given the credit for developing this one God concept and bringing it out of Africa into the desert and into the rest of the Western world. So black people must make a decision now and recognize now this one God of Moses. That cannot be the one God of African people. Because African people, before the one God was created, have our what you call arrangements of gods and goddesses long before the conception of a one God. So the Europeans have adopted this one God concept and have now put in that one God concept the existence of a S-U-S-O-N. That this one God now has a son. And it's this son now that becomes the leading force to control the minds of black people. This Son of God now, this S-O-N, has become a driving force in controlling the fear of black people. And so, when Garvey would put one God in his motto, all of that baggage comes with it. And we see in today's world that the oppressor also calls upon one God. The oppressor swears upon one God. And if you go into the court system, you have to put your hand on the Bible and swear upon that one God. That same one God that was overseeing the uprooting of black people out of Africa into the slave conditions. It's about time we free ourselves from that one God construct. Metamorphosis.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast to order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on Styles FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
Rahab, Ethiopia calling. I hear a call in mystery Babylon. Your queendom are falling down to the ground, and Rahab, Ethiopia. Give me back me gold, me ruby and diamond. I
for Bachna, Kida Panya, Kida Farafet, one Machiki Bunjul, Kida Pabunjul, one Yandeke Sawai, Kida Pabunjul, one Machiki Bunjul, Kida Pabunjul, Daphne Rafet, you went a menda in Gama, getting Daphne Rafet, you went a menda in Gara, Daphne Rafet, you went a menda in Gara, did you know? That's a richer Africa, did you know? That's a richer Africa, did you know? Said the whole world love it, did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of your culture. Walking down the road in a Germany, reggae music playing, and this is what one man was saying. Persistent dancer, persistent. Ich kann nicht anders, muss einfach tanzen. Ich geb der Reggae manchmal, ja macht man ein bisschen lauter. Niemals in meinem Leben hab ich so etwas gehört. Meine Damen und Herren und alle Brüder und Schwestern, ich muss euch jetzt verlassen, weil ich fliege nach Jamaika. Tschüss, bis bald, ich komme irgendwann wieder. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mir Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Es macht mich Spaß, es gibt mir Kraft und Energie wie ein Tiger. Did you know? Dance all rich in Germany, did you know? Dance all rich in Germany, did you know? Said the whole world love it, did you know? Said the whole world love it. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud, you got to hold on to it. Be proud of your culture. I know.
Maradina chants that Africans, we and I must be proud of our culture. Well, the culture must never be separated from the history. And the history of the one God is vital. Because everywhere we go and everything is put in front of us, it's all signed and sealed off when we mention about the one God. But Akhenaten, the great pharaoh who brought this concept into earth, is also considered to be the founder of monotheism. So monotheism was not invented by Moses. Monotheism was an invention of the African mind. And this mind didn't establish an idea to enslave itself. So Akhenaten actually inspired a revolution in ancient Egypt called the Armana Revolution. A-R-M-A-N-A. The Armana Revolution. Such was the extent of this philosophy being brought into ancient Africa at this time. And it became so significant in that it wasn't coming from the grassroots. It was a philosophy that was coming from the top down, straight out of the brain of Akhenaten and his beautiful wife, Nefertiti. And so he spent a lot of his time philosophizing rather than ruling. And Egypt actually went into a serious decline because he lacked the sense of militariness and fighting spirit that a pharaoh should have to defend the territory. He was all about philosophy and transforming and the beauty of life and the harmony and the unity of life forces. So he brought a revolution into Africa. They don't teach us about this revolution. In the revolution, we hear about something that happened in Europe. But the revolution of the Egyptians in around 1200 BC is very important for us to know where we are today. And that revolution was an attempt by a king to remove polytheism out of the life of the Egyptian people. So before Akhenaten, it was normal and natural for Africans to worship several gods and goddesses. It was normal and it was natural, and there was no concept of a supreme being ruling over all the entire pantheon of gods. There was always a conference when the gods go and do something, which is perhaps why even in the Christian doctrine, when the story is written about let us make man, it is gods speaking. It's a pantheon of gods in discussion about what is the next move, what is the next project. So we have to see ourselves today and begin to shake off the fear of this one God. And this one God we hear is dread and terrible. And whenever wicked things happen in the world, we say it's through the will of that one God. And when good things happen, we say it's through the will of that one God, because I and I have surrendered I will unto the concept of that one God. The prayer tells you that the Father's his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So we have shut down the will of the black mind. We no longer have any willpower, which is perhaps why we're not achieving tangible things. No willpower, because the will has been transformed over to the Son of this one God. That is the will of this Son now running the world. And the Africans are not recognizing that the Chinaman are not following the will of Jesus. And the Indians are not following back of the will of Jesus. It's the black people, the Negro Christians, who are encouraged to be slaves and follow back of Jesus. So this one God concept is I conception, but it has been corrupted by these European forces, who have now turned this one God now into the puppet, master puppet, controlling the black people's brains, like our puppet master controls the puppets. So we have to shake off the fear and the illusion of this one God that sits into some space called heaven, and that the one God is a male, and is always a father. It's the European construct of male domination, white male supremacy. So it's manifested even in the concept of the Creator, because the Creator is always viewed from the lens of a white man, because the Son is projected as a Caucasian. So the mind, which knows how to imply and works for cause and effect, the mind implies that if the Son is a Caucasian, it's quite likely the Father is such. More so we never seen a mother. It's just a father and son, them give way. So if there's no mother and there's only a father, and son look one kind of way, the mind implies the father look the same way. And so this is perhaps, with all of these hundreds of years of experience from Garvey to now, the race has gone forward one step and we have taken 2 steps backwards. In Garvey's days, people tried to straighten them hair and bleach them skin, and we thought we had gotten away from that. It has come around full force again, with all the literature and the celebration and the culture and the consciousness. We are still slaves. And I'm saying the slavery is to the constant, and the constant is the one God. We need to be awakened in our consciousness.
Shines like a beautiful stream. Hey, hey, it's here in this world and it's reigning supreme. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Knowledge and wisdom will lead us to freedom. Hey, hey, let us seek first the heavenly kingdom. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Sodom and Gomorrah, we don't wanna see. Mama world empire. See the world turn into a cemetery. Don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so many people are fighting. See no fighting cause them don't wanna see no war, don't wanna gonna see the fighting. So don't bother with the gun, bother with the gun, bother with the gun, pie, no bother with the gun, bother with the gun, bother with the gun, pie. All the ragamuffin who they living in crime. Nobody kill your brother for no nickel nor dime. All the ragamuffin who they living in crime. Nobody kill your brother for no nickel nor dime. Stop fighting and make we all start uniting. Lord of mercy, stop fighting and make we all start uniting. Bumble the bong, unite. No bother with no fuss, no fight. Unite. No matter if you're black, no white. Unite. You know that the time is right. Unite. No bother with no fuss, no fight. Unite. 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 You know that the time is right. Unite. 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 No bother fussing, no fight. Where there's no union, there's only confusion. Hey, hey.
Yeah, again, the sound of Mauritania, chanting. Much of the world is perplexed. Population, that is. Because of the education system and religious system that inculcates in the brain this idea of a supreme being. One supreme being. And in the supreme concept of the supreme being now, all mortals fall under the umbrella of the supreme being. And the supreme being now is considered to be immortal. So people, of course, will generally ask questions of origin. And ultimately, people will ask questions like, how did the universe begin? And in order to solve that sort of question, there is the mind configures that something had to be responsible for starting this everything. And so the concept of a beginning plays around in the thoughts, and it is generally a way of asking, how did things appear, how do things appear, and where do they appear from? So when these questions are posed as to origins now, it gets a little bit more technical and complicated, because we're going into regions wherein we have to engage in our thinking process, because none of us are really physically in those places and in those times. So if we draw upon the most important organ in our system to get answers to these questions. Now, a lot of us as African people in the Western world have been sort of conditioned to think with our heart. Now, this is totally impossible now, you know. Because you can't think with your heart. The heart don't have the neurons and the brain cells to generate thought and do calculations and to compare and to contrast and to do measurement and discriminate. The heart is an organ that helps to maintain the blood flow primarily. So when we talk about using our heart, we can't use our heart in any intellectual activity. So the Europeans basically now have Africans thinking that they are really all emotional beings. All emotional. And the emotional being now, everything is expressed through feelings. So when we talk about origins and we talk about things of substance, we generally just tell a man how we feel. Boy, me feel so it going on. Boy, me no feel so, you know, me feel so or me don't feel so. We want to move away from that feeling talk with the heart involved and get involved in the thinking through the brain. Yeah, seeing Jamax, we want people begin to exercise brain power and thought power, because that is what is the essence of the African, is thinking power. And if you can get a man to stop think or get him to think in reverse, then you have him for life. So religion again encourages us to do things with the heart. The heart can weigh and make judgments that are life-threatening are scientifically driven. The heart is a suggestion that we have feelings because it pumps blood through our whole body and we get feelings. And there's nothing wrong with feelings, but when we're going to talk about what we want about knowledge, we can't mix up feelings now with knowledge. But if we begin to talk about our thoughts and our ideas and how are they connected, is there any logic? Can you project? So when we begin to exercise brain power now, we can begin to delve into concepts like origins and beginnings. Because if you speak about one God, you have to tell me about the beginning. You have to tell me about the origin of this one God. And why not several gods? So it is thought power that we have to wake up. Because remember now, there is me, and there is I, there is myself. And the me is all about feeling. And feeling is sensation based upon information coming from the outside. And we feel. But thinking now is our creative side. This is where we do our creations, our creativity. This is how we advance our thought processes, where we can move it from something on paper to something that is concrete and solid. So the pyramids were all designed in mathematics first, and physics, and various formulas. Those things came out of the brain of black people, not out of their heart. So we have to reconfigure ourselves that we can delve into the thoughts fearlessly. One God is not a concept to be afraid of. And when you begin to explore the concept of one God, you realize that there is no need for even the concept of a devil. That it too is a construct established by thinkers. And it too has a function. So it's about liberation. Liberation through thinking and examination, not through feelings. Because feelings wave. Feelings come and go, Just like belief. Beliefs come and beliefs go. We have to begin to aspire for knowledge. Ask yourself the question, do you believe what you name or you know your name? Cassidy? You believe say your name, Cassidy? Or you know that? Both of them. Which one is the reality? The belief or the knowledge? So you can change your name? So that means you have to change your belief then. Yeah, but a different name you have. all right. So, may I say, we have to learn to think it out. And this concept of belief is a dangerous concept. Check it out. Metamorphosis.
For complete auto repairs and services, come to Akon Auto Technology, located at 33 Bumble Crescent, Port Antonio, Jamaica. We offer specialist services in wheel alignment and wheel balancing, brake drum and disc rotary servicing, state-of-the-art ultrasonic cleaning and testing of your fuel injectors. We also stock an assorted range of auto service parts, tires, and motorcraft batteries. If we don't have it, we will source it for you. Call us at 876-715-5205 or email AkonAutoTech16@gmail.com. Akon Auto Technology, beyond the typical auto mechanic shop.
It's Wow Factor Tuesdays with Chungy and Shelly. Every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's entertainment and interaction at its best. With features like the Share to Care segment, the Uprising 10 Countdown, and the ever-controversial Love Break. Yes, it's the Wow Factor. Your Tuesday mornings will never be the same again.
Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, conveniently located at 15 Boundbrook Crescent, Port Antonio. For a large space of single and double rooms at reasonable rate, Wi-Fi, cable TV, breakfast order, 24-hour security, CC cameras, parking, snack bar and lounge. Beautiful scenery of the Caribbean Sea. We're willing to assist with additional accommodation, such as fridge in your room, coffee machine, and so much more. Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House, proud sponsor of the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak, live on Styles FM, Mondays, 9 p.m. to midnight. Call Boundbrook Hilltop Guest House at 715-1644.
I see. Do you wanna wings with me? Come in, come in. I love the girl I see. Do you wanna wings with me? Come in, come in, babe. I'm not thinking carnally. Judge I not by scrutiny. Your heart and soul, I want in my control. I'm not just a lovey dove. I don't just wanna fall in love. I stand in love, not ever on parole. Rootsman penetrating, a rootsman penetrating.
A thinking black man and woman is a dangerous man and woman. What am I say? A thinking black man and woman is a dangerous man and woman.
I love the girl I see. Do you wanna wings with me? Come in, come in. I love the girl I see. Do you wanna wings with me? Run in, baby. Can you handle the reasoning? Do you want a little more seasoning? I hope you'll find that I'm not the joking kind. If you think I'm not a thrill, everything is cool still. Cause now you know my level. I'll never cause you love trouble, no. Rootsman penetrating, a rootsman penetrating. Feel, a rootsman love possessing, rootsman love possessing. Feel, Lord, feel, baby. I love the girl I see. Do you wanna wings with me? Come in, come in. I love the girl I see.
Earlier in the program, I mentioned something that took place in Germany a couple of days ago, where the Germans have legislated or made it legal for people of the same gender to get married. They call it same-sex marriage. Now, this is a revulsion to African tradition. And all this is happening under the watch of the one God. Sodomy. And this behavior is being pushed on the rest of the world as normal. These two men now who got married, they have been together for 30 odd years. It's about 38 years, them there. And them get the license now for officially there. And it a go on. And that movement called LGBTQ has been spreading, trying to impose a way of life that is more closer to a way of death. Because to the African tradition, procreation is the key. Procreation is the key to creation. And we don't know how two women can procreate. And we don't know how two men can procreate. So something is totally awry when it comes to the order of nature. And these people now using semantics and deciding that you can't call it normal. You can't call it abnormal because they're going to ask you, so what is normal? And I'm not speaking about normal or abnormal. I'm talking about natural and unnatural. And it's natural for the foundation of a society, as far as we know, to be the family. The foundation of a society or of a community is the family. And I don't know how a family can be constructed with two men. That's not a family. But the Europeans, because they have the power of economics and the media, they can define and redefine what a marriage is. And who must follow? Why should we follow the definition of other people? Who controls that level of information to decide what is a definition? So the Europeans are now deciding that marriage is no longer defined by male and female, but it can be defined by any two people. Next thing I'm going to tell you is a man, so animal and a person can be married next. Because they are the ones who are defining what is what and what is not. They are defining, they're making definitions that suit them. So African brains can't define things. We can't define nothing for ourselves. But we wait for the man to define things and then tell us what is news. So it's because we have surrendered brain power. We have surrendered thought power. And we are amazed when we buck up a black man or a black woman who can think. So it's that energy, it's a capacity we have to reawaken if we want to talk about mental freedom or escape from mental slavery. So that type of relationship that is being put on the world now, black people must take a stand. And we can't be with everything. We have to begin to stand for certain things and begin to resist certain things. And this is not constructive and uplifting for black people to be accepting these same-sex type of philosophies. It don't advance the black nation. It becomes like another tool for genocide. A way of limiting the population. Because the Europeans we know are just 10% of the world population, you know, white people. They only make up 10% of the world population. The next 90% is people of melanin, people of black people generally. And if 10% can control 90%, then they must have those people thinking, as Dr. Wilson say, backwards. Dr. Amos Wilson would say if 10% can control 90%, then the 90% must be thinking backwards. Or not thinking at all. And there are things that are within us that are constant, even though we're making changes. And one of the constants in our ideology, again, is this one God, this ruler, this man, this white man, who's the ruler of all things. And because we can't see that white man, him send a white son with a blue eye and blonde hair. And if we don't hear fighting now, say, in black. Yeah, that's what African people end up fighting now to prove that this son that is just fictional, that in black. It is of no difference whether the Jesus was black, white, or green. The Chinese don't care. They don't care what Jesus was, because to them it's a fiction. The Indians don't care whether Jesus was white, black, or pink. He certainly wasn't Indian. He certainly wasn't Chinese in the literature. So they are free from the one God and the Son. Who is captive are the Negro Christians. The Africans who have been trapped by the Christian Bible have been caught up now in the enslavement process. And no matter what Garvey say, no matter what Malcolm X say, no matter what the black leaders say, ultimately is what the one God say. And the one God now we hear talk to us now through a book. And the book is written by his chosen people. And there are no women in the choice. It's pure man. The thing corrupted. It corrupted from the extreme top. And unless we make the adjustment, it's talk we talk. The world is at war. There's a war in America. There's a war in the Middle East, where they call the Middle East. There are wars on certain aspects of the African continent. And there's a global war for the mind of black people. And we must begin to defend our own minds through knowledge and liberate ourselves from the puppet master. Metamorphosis.
Sitting in your church on Sunday, thinking who you're gonna screw Monday, who you're gonna thief, who you're gonna rob. Take it as me till you say you can't fool God. Do every day you
you ball out, Jaja. Call yourself a dreadlocks rasta. Terrorize the people on your lane, cause I saw you get wicked when you lick the code. By his deeds shall a man bend down. Wanna ask you for a piece of bread, you give him stone. By his deeds shall a man bend down. Natty up your head and worship Babylon throne. By his deeds shall a man bend down. Straighten up your liberty and don't bow down. By his deeds shall a man bend down. Mr. Money Man with your big money plan. Tell me where you get your first money from. How you plant your field, how you make your deal. Then come tell your picnic them fit don't smoke weed. Left your air condition office and gone a bar. Impress a little easy gal with your pretty car. When you're done she said she have to get paid. What a fret you a go fret when you hear she have. By his deeds shall a man bend now. Wanna ask you for a piece of bread, you give him stone. By his deeds shall a man bend now. Natty up your head and worship Babylon throne. By his deeds shall a man bend now. Straighten up your liberty and don't bow down. By his deeds shall a man bend now. What a way you reach far. Every lyrics where you have me say up your one. Oh, you a tell a man feel lick shot when you never get a lick yet we feel how it hard. If you a warrior, tell me where you fight for. And if a justice make you put up on a lighter. But if a vanity jewelry and such, remember say me tell you say you soon get. By his deeds shall a man be known. Man I ask you for a piece of bread, you give him stone. By his deeds shall a man be known. Natty up your head and worship Babylon throne. By his deeds shall a man be known. Straighten up your liberty and don't bow down. By his deeds shall a man be known.
By your deeds a man shall be known. It's the actions that we defined. We use and define you, you know, what you do. I mean, you can always say certain things and say certain things, but ultimately it's the actions will define who you really are. And within the realm of governance at the international level, there's a leader in the White House that I wish to call President Bunker. This is a rebirth of Archie Bunker, which is an embodiment of bigotry and racism and white domination ideologies. And this present leader now, we are in a time when the earth is going through much disaster. Much of it man-made, some of it by natural forces. And when I hear what this brethren have to say about certain disasters, it's revelation, and it is good, because by a man's actions we know what is in his thoughts. We don't want to know what's in a man's heart. It's only blood. We don't know what's in a man's brain. And so the United States now undergoing their own personal, own national issues. Flooding and fires and Irma and Maria and mash up Houston and mash up Texas and thing, and them ask the President of America to come out and show support, and him take him time and him come down there and him say certain things and so on and move on. But then another hurricane passed through now Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico now, to many people, is just a state of America, but They don't know where it's really located. Just like, for example, the man who is now the president, look like him don't even know where Puerto Rico is. And he doesn't understand that Puerto Rico is an American territory and the people who live on that island are Americans. But you see, the people, they are not from the culture that is black in domination. And so Puerto Rico come in like a little offshore island that the Americans would control. The crisis has now hit to the level wherein them can't get the response that was given to places like Texas or Houston. So it's almost as if the leadership showing you, say, it's America first, and Puerto Rico is not really a part of America. America is really where the white people are dominant. And that's where his interest is. His interest is in the white people. And the pettiness also is exposed. Because America now is being exposed, you know. The racist nature of America is being exposed. Christianity and the Christian mind try to numb you that you don't sensitive enough to race. But this leadership now is removing all of that mask and bandage and showing you the thing raw. There's a football player we know, Colin Kaepernick, who has started a serious movement in America that people never know would blossom to this level. That now it's being ridiculed now with this take a knee concept. And in taking this knee now, it has been shifted from protesting against black oppression to protesting against the president. And it happens to enough black people movement every time we find a cause to protest. It is overridden and watered down and it loses revolutionary venom. I know everybody kneeling down, so it's becoming like a joke now. So we say resistance is not something that we just have to just get up one day and say it. We have to be persistent. We have to be consistent. And we see that the president of America is so petty that a basketball player decides that he will not go to the White House. And the president said withdraw the invitation for the entire team. But then there was a football player named Tom Brady who also turned on an invitation and there was no response from the president. There is no withdrawal of invitation to the entire Patriot team. But there's a difference between Steph Curry and Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a Caucasian, white American poster boy. Steph Curry is a black poster boy. And the poster boy part is very important to the president. Because in his attitude towards the sportsmen, he calls them SOBs. So Steph Curry is just another SOB as well. Who should be glad that he's getting millions of dollars to play ball. So what you see happening now is that this billionaire president owner is a reflection of the planter class before emancipation. And in their consciousness, emancipation didn't bring any change to black people. Because black people are still what they are, chattel and property. And so it's a good awakening for the black consciousness of America to realize that black people have to make some strong decisions now about taking with themselves, about separation. When it was said by earlier black leaders, it was looked as like a joke. But it's about time we think consciously about separating ourselves and developing our own economics. Capture two states, or look beyond America and begin to look at Africa. Because that is the reality. We need a power base. We need a home base. The Chinaman has a home. The Indian has a home. And they have claimed it. So the black man in America who have the resources have to begin to stop trying to claim America and claim what is natural. Where is our natural homeland? Begin to claim the African continent. And see if the white people can survive without black power. Metamorphosis. local level here on our plantation here in Jamaica, we are involving ourselves now in another political set of shangarangs. With Orange and Green now are fighting for some seats in the parliament. And them doing all the things them have to do to tell the people to come out and vote. And the people because of their impoverished condition and state of mind, they will chase the drinks and the piece of chicken. And they forget so that when these people get into office, I'm done with them. Because that's the nature of the politics here. Those who are in governance simply come to the people when they need voting, and when they get the vote, them go back amongst themselves and drink rum and enjoy them time and upgrade them family and them status and them land and make the best of the situation. I am saying that the political leadership in Jamaica right now is brain dead. And the evidence is that we have seen where the history of the politics shows that successive ruling parties, they have all sworn allegiance to the crown and its successors. And these men and women, they remain loyal and subservient to the Governor General, who is the Queen's representative on this colony. Now my observation is that from 1980 to 2015, or no, 35 years or so, of tribal politics, that it doesn't matter who's in power, that successive governments, they have skillfully and subliminally, they have motivated the population of Jamaica to migrate. They have inspired the population to escape to green card pastures and ultimately to become long distance contributors to the local economy by sending barrels and sending remittance. Now, for decades, the island has experienced a steady drain in talent and brain power. And so the brain power of the island has been diminished significantly. So what we have on the island here now is a population that is generally ungovernable and basically unable to escape the debt, the EBT of the plantation system. We have people here who just simply can't get away because they just don't have the resources or the connections. We have people who are here and are willing to stay here because, like Iman, we have seen the other side of the fence and the grass is not so green. And then we have a large number of those who Uncle Sam has rejected, call them deportees. And so with all of this mix on the island now, those who are young really have no interest in the political system here, and they are concentrating on their own life. So basically then the people who end up calling government, them really not trying to encourage anybody who leave the island to return. They don't really want people who have accumulated experience and discipline and no teamwork and have some patriotism. They don't want these people to return to the island because none of these parties have any policy to motivate returning residents. So without any fresh ideas, the brain dead nature of the political system remains. And so the plantation slave society remains intact. The people who have escaped and live in the diaspora need to realize that the transformation in Jamaica will come with your input. When the people on the outside decide that they want an independent Jamaica, like the people in the Catalans or the people or the Kurds, they shall come in. And when they come in, those who are Mickey Mousing in the leadership will have to shape up or ship out. And that's the way it is. So the world is undergoing its changes. And Africans, black people, must also change in mentality. Metamorphosis.
Wise up falling bodies, rise and take your stance again. Is you fighting one day? Live to fight another day, and they behave like this.
Not even in a Babylon ain't easy. Said living in a Babylon ain't easy, no way. Temptation on my right hand, evil on my left. I'll stand up and fight. Oh yeah, now Sadamassagana. In a positive way, Sadamassagana. In a positive way, I've got to pray to Jah to have some mercy, to keep me safe and guide me to travel on my way.
Metamorphosis organizing again to move on. But I must say a little bit about the plantation system before coming out. And this plantation system, without a doubt, it keeps you slaving. This is a Monday. This is the beginning of the strong. They like to call this the beginning of the week. This is the beginning of the strong. And you go from the beginning of the strong right to the strong end. There is no weak. But the plantation system keeps you slaving. And the health system, it keeps you sick. The economic system keep you poor. The education system keep you backward. The justice system gives out injustice. And the church system sends you to hell. We need a new paradigm. Metamorphosis.
No, it ain't easy. Said living in a Babylon ain't easy, no way. Temptation on my right hand.
The system keeps us ignorant of who we really are. Many lies are being told through education. So we have to revisit our own story.
Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Won't ya tell me now, now? Someone keeps on reaping what I sow. That ain't right now. Who is the one I'd like to know? Do you think it is an easy thing to be out there working when the sun is burning?
Again, I want to recommend that my listeners zero in on Dr. Amos N. Wilson and get a good insight into how the Europeans are waging psychological warfare against the African mind. But that's where the war is being fought. Particularly within blackness, it's all about control of the mind. So who can control information? And so history is crucial. And history is not a thing that is behind us. History is the present. And history is the future. And those who control the past control the future. So let us get active in controlling our own past. We must rewrite our own stories and tell it in a way that is liberating and uplifting. So give thanks, heal up grace, good night to the eye, and all those who are in the northern states, Juicy Max, in the Toronto, in the Canadian side of the world, heal all those right here in Portland, heal those on the island of Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and on the continents and the various spaces. I listen to Styles FM, the Metamorphosis, and engage in Dr. Iman Blak with reasoning that is article. Heal up Cassidy, holding the fort, and in this month, Osabora shall pass through, Asmakunin shall pass through, Empress Irisha shall pass through. This is the month of heritage and heroes and heroines. So we need to emulate our heroes and heroines standing strong in the struggle against oppression. That's the far I live. Iman Blak, out.
Peace and harmony. It is in silence that we will always hear.